What's something that's not right about your body, but not serious enough to go to a doctor about? I have a catch in my throat when I breathe. If I don't hit that catch, I feel like I haven't gotten enough air. This means I take huge, deep breaths all the time. And it gets even worse with exercise. Doc says it ain't asthma. And he can't do anything about it, so I just gave up on finding an answer. Tinnitus. Sometimes I suddenly hear the void of nothing in one ear. And then sound slowly readjusts over a couple seconds. And sometimes I notice that my eyes don't see objects as the same colors. Weird, but not really a problem, so we just carry on. I experience something that's called exploding head syndrome. Something that is much less severe than the name might imply. Basically, sometimes, right as I'm on the edge of sleep, I'll hear a loud auditory hallucination that jolts me back awake. Pretty rare though, only happens to me maybe once a month. I've had a white section of hair since I was like 13. No clue why. It's just a part of my hair that grows without pigment. I believe that's anime protagonist disease. Sometimes I'll have one random hair that grows out of my arm that has the consistency of plastic and is almost clear looking. My mom gets it too. It's just one hair. Edit. Guys, it's not Magellan's disease. My left ear itches a lot. I have a minor issue in my right knee. A third, bit tiny, nipple under my normal sized right one, which is slightly higher placed than the one on my left. Asymmetrical abs and a slightly blurry vision in my left eye. Not necessarily wrong. But weird, I guess. You should see a doctor about the eye thing. Play your cards right and you could come out of this with a fully justifiable monocle. The texture of the skin on my right palm changed after I was sick back in March. Sometimes it's bubbly and really itchy. Sometimes it looks just really tight and glossy, and sometimes it's so dry that the skin is cracking up. I can definitely see a difference between the right and the left one. The little roads. Fingerprints? That sounds very much like dyshydrotic eczema. I had it when I was pregnant. It sucks. This is not a diagnosis. You need to see a physician for a diagnosis. I used to have a hedgehog named Velcro. I'd let him run around on my bed. One morning I slid out of bed and got a sharp pain in my left ass cheek. I walked to the bathroom and saw that I had a half-inch of quill lodged firmly in my haunch. I pulled out what I could and thought I got it all. It wept a few times and eventually healed. It'd been 20 years. And I still have a scab on my ass that falls off once a month. And comes back in a few days. I can feel there's something deep under the skin. But because of the bad angle, there's no way I can take care of it without a dermatologist's help. That would drive me insane. I would have no choice but to see a dermatologist. My hip always hurts. Especially in cold weather. But doctors would say to just take a Tylenol and rest. There's an indent on my right foot where a horse stepped on it. I never went to a doctor about it and I assume it is in fact broken, but it's been almost 20 years. There was a guy who was walking home and felt something hit his head. He assumed it was a falling brick. Years later, he hit his head again and got an x-ray. It revealed a bullet lodged in his skull, stopping just barely short of the brain. The earlier incident must have been a ricochet or a stray shot fired from too far away. The doctors left it as is because adequate scar tissue had already grown around the bullet. I had an extra set of wisdom teeth that were hidden in behind that weren't picked up by x-rays. The dentist only found them when doing a routine extraction of my normal wisdom teeth. They were like tiny baby teeth that weren't fully developed. The dentist said that he'd never seen that before. He wasn't a young guy either. I've had 6 or 7 wisdom teeth removed and now another MF is starting to commute. Like, how wise am I supposed to be? I certainly don't live up to that. When I blow my nose, my left eye bubbles from the corner. Like air coming through. Freaks me out every time because it feels so weird. The nasolacrimal duct is what drains your tears from eyes to nose. If you generate enough pressure you can blow air back up it. I got a concussion early January this year and I still don't feel the same 11 months later. No doctors could do anything about it as it's just post-concussion syndrome and it's somewhat common for it to affect people for a year or more after. Semicolon. Edit. Thanks everyone for all your concern and your suggestions. I sympathize with your stories. And hope those of you who still have lingering issues feel better soon. For those asking, I feel better than before. Nothing too scary. It was a mild concussion. I'm mostly dealing with mild insomnia, brain fog, and mood issues and a few other things. On my bad days when symptoms flare up more, I just have to remind myself to take a lot of breaks. I'm 90% certain I have vitiligo, but I'm a pale ass Slav and I can only notice it on my nether regions because it makes a patch of my pubes blonde. I think this summer I should get a tan to confirm this. Do you have access to a black light or woods lamp? I'm pretty pale but I was noticing blotches on my skin that were paler. I thought I just applied sunscreen unevenly on my hands and cheeks. But eventually I went to a doctor and they shined a black light on the affected areas. The areas without pigment stood out significantly compared to my normal skin. I throw up after I eat eggs. I really like eggs though. Vomiting after consuming something is often a sign of an allergy. Check with a doc on this one. When I was in elementary school I had a pair of blue shoes that I refused to get rid of. So I wore them even though they were a little small. I have a singular white eyelash on one of my eyes that grows really quickly and gets so long it'll get in my actual eye. And I need to cut it every couple of months to keep it short. Edit. Continuing on the topic of hair. All over my body I have hair that have multiple hairs growing out of one follicle. These hairs are also super easy and painless to pull out. It's so weird. My collarbone is always sore. To the point that it keeps me up at night. I guess I technically did go to a doctor. I went right after it started hurting and they accused me of drug seeking. That was a year and a half ago. I'll just live with it. My left leg makes cracking sounds when I walk upstairs. Edit. I'm 20 years old so I must be getting old guys. You know that little flap anchoring your tongue to the bottom of your mouth? Mine's abnormally short so I can't stick my tongue out as far as the average person. Technically it was a doctor who told me I had that in the first place. I hadn't ever noticed it on my own and they were trying to examine my throat for unrelated reasons and were getting annoyed that I wouldn't stick my tongue out farther as instructed. They eventually realized it wasn't just non-compliance and diagnosed the issue. Then just kind of put up with a suboptimal throat view. But it's not what I was there for. Plus they said corrective surgery is an option and I've never cared enough to follow up on that. So I'm counting it. I have a birth defect in my sternum called pectus excavatum aka funnel chest. Look it up. It's interesting. My sternum is not shaped normal. It caves in creating a funnel in my chest. Since I'm female it's not entirely noticeable but it can be felt. And I can hold a puddle of water in it. It does limit the space in my chest cavity so I can feel when something isn't right with my heart more than most and can make my claustrophobia worse. But other than that it doesn't cause many issues. I have looked it up and the procedure to fix it doesn't seem worth it and is usually done for cosmetic reasons so wouldn't be covered by insurance. My penis curves to the side like a boomerang. Boomerang. Edit. Thanks for all the awards. Figures. My highest rated comment would be an off-the-cuff dick joke. That could be Peyronie's disease. If it interferes with intercourse or is painful or bothers you, see a urologist. Most cases are treatable in some way. Source. I work in urology and do penile Dopplers for patients with ED and see a lot of patients who have Peyronie's. I've seen cases with mild curvature and cases up to 90. Skin tags. I have 2 uvulas. Every time I see a uvula comment my brain reads it as vulva. I'm a girl if that makes this comment any better. You just can't tell from my username. Actually don't look at my username in relation to this comment. I mean, does being a wolf count? I'm technically disabled and malformed, but there's nothing to be done about it. Just living my life really. I sneeze when I eat chocolate. Just twice and that's it. Sometimes it happens, sometimes not. I've got what's called choroidal never acute, which means I have freckling on my eyeball. Found out when I finally went to an optometrist after 5 years. For a new prescription. It doesn't and won't affect my eyesight or anything. It's just a little dot you can see when they do a scan. Edit. So till that you actually should keep tabs on your eye freckles and wear sunglasses because it could become cancerous. I have a hard time discerning dream from reality since real life is so dreamlike and foggy and dreams are so vivid. I've read its dissociation from depression but never really talked to my psych about it. Depersonalization and dissociation are no joke, definitely talk about it. I've struggled for years and am just now learning some coping mechanisms that help. If I eat eggs, I become incredibly sick. To the point where my stomach is in agony. I'm on verge of throwing up and I can't move. I simply just stopped eating eggs and haven't had any issues since. But the weird part is I can eat cake and anything with eggs mixed into it. But not eggs by themselves. Fun fact. Eggs that have been baked thoroughly at a high temperature are less likely to cause a reaction than straight up eggs. My kid's allergic and they've got us doing allergy challenges with baked egg in a cake to try and get him over it quicker. The first day of my period is living death. I'm usually fine in the early morning, but in the later morning, I get extremely nauseated and really bad diarrhea. I'm on the toilet switching from mouth to rear. Too quick to flush the toilet most of the time. I can't swallow food or water BC, it's so painful. This is accented by intense lower back pain, ramming headaches, extreme dizziness to the point of fainting, and stabbing cramps. The cramps are newer since I never had cramps during my period when I was younger. I've been to the hospital on more than one occasion, but the doctors just say I need more electrolytes. I drink electrolyte water before I get my period, but it doesn't seem to help. If it happens before work school, I just cancel because it may last a few hours or a day. It's absolutely awful, and each time it happens, I just pray that I die instead of enduring this torture. I can't yell. My voice just cracks and squeaks after it gets louder than mildly loud talking. I get headaches when it rains. My big toe sticks up. Out of nowhere. I have to think to push it down. Sometimes have to use other foot. I have Raynaud's disease. It's a rare disorder of the blood vessels. Commonly in fingers and toes, but also can happen on ears, nose or lips. It causes the blood vessels to narrow when you are cold and can happen if you are stressed. When this happens, the blood can't get to the surface of the skin and the affected areas turn white and blue and making them numb. Hurts like heck. No cure. Just have to prevent yourself from getting too cold, like wear gloves or have the hand warmers with you. Semicolon. Edit. Based on the responses, it doesn't look like it's that rare after all. One side of my body is thinner than the other. When you grab it you can easily notice the difference. Got a hairline fracture on my shoulder blade years ago that I never treated. From time to time I get a tingly sensation in it, but it's not painful or anything. I get weird tics sometimes. I jolt sometimes. But I don't think that it's as serious as Tourette's. The main tic I have is that I blink weird. I try to control it in public, but it gets really uncomfortable when I go too long consciously trying to keep it at bay, so I just let it do its thing and keep my head down. Sometimes in work school, someone will catch me doing it and I'll have to come up with some weird excuse like I'm just squinting or I just thought I saw a spider and had to look closer. I don't even know if this is something you'd go to a doctor about even if it was Tourette's, but man, I get annoying. Edit. Oh my god, this is one of the most responsive comments I've got. Thank you all so much. You guys also made me think of a few more I've had. I've had weird throat noises, toe curling, making weird fists, flipping my wrist around, stretching, cracking my neck by rolling it, and a lot of other annoying things that aren't involuntary, just uncomfortable when you refrain from doing them too long. Thanks a lot. I'm so glad this isn't just me. I am 24. Yet I feel like a 90-year-old. Always tired and groggy and exhausted. I think it's just life. I'm only 23 and go through that same hell every day. Turns out I have B12 and vitamin D deficiency, and I'm depressed obviously. Edit. I'm not trying to normalize depression. I have been diagnosed with PTSD and now take B12 for D and SSRIs to manage my symptoms. I encourage everyone reading this to see a doctor if you can afford it if you're struggling with something similar. My girlfriend is a doctor, so I win by getting to unload all of my minor concerns onto her. My heart just twitched. Am I dying? Sometimes when I bend my knee like this, it hurts. Is that normal? Would you say my bad memory is still within a normal range? I've got this thing in my cheek. It's been there since I can remember. And nobody knows what it is. It's about the size of a tooth, but not as hard. And I can't move it back and forth. It's funny whenever I get x-rayed and the doctors ask me about it. What is that? I don't know. You know. Every time I walk from a warm space to a cold space I gag. Not enough to bring anything up, but enough to stop my walking or talking and attract attention. For instance, if I'm in a nice warm living room and go to take my dog out at night where it's cold, gag time. Out of the car in the morning to walk into work, gag time. I've asked my doctor and she has no idea what it could even be, so I've just dealt with it. I'm a little overweight, and I know how to fix this myself. I found out when they took my appendix that my uterus is tilted backwards. I thought that's why my periods hurt so much. But the cramps went away when I started birth control. It might not make much difference, but at least we're not planning on having kids, so I don't need to worry. Edit. It's really neat to find out so many other people have this. And although it may cause extra pain for some, it doesn't have to mean no kids. Go tilted uterus gang. I have a birth defect. Roof of my mouth ain't right. Nobody ever caught it until I was 20. I think my sinuses are weird too because COVID tests are very bad. I don't really have a speech impediment except sometimes my RSW. I'm super prone to ulcers. If it gets bad enough I get medication, but usually I just recognize the symptoms and know it's diet time again. Let me tell you, it sucks not having anything spicy or greasy or acidic. Those are my favorite things, but my tummy won't have it most of the time. Can't even have raw veggies and I'll loaf salad. Sometimes my vision will go black. I'll start to feel a little weird. It will fade out. But I can't move around and hear perfectly fine. That's not good. Does it happen just after you sit up or stand up? It can be a result of lower than average blood pressure, Google orthostatic hypotension. I have it. Good news is, low blood pressure is a good thing medically as long as you aren't fainting due to it being super low. Bad news for me is that I have super cold hands and feet due to poor circulation as a result of the low blood pressure. And if I sit up or stand too fast my vision fades out and I have to make sure I'm as hydrated as possible to keep my blood volume up. This thread is oddly comforting. I find these little corporeal testimonies so intimate and endearing. Behold our humanity. We're weird and beautiful. Shows you what we're missing on TV and Instagram. My heart beats the wrong way. Didn't even know that it was a thing until it was mentioned during a checkup. It doesn't cause me any ill effects, so it's not really a big issue. I've rolled my ankles so many times that they no longer really swell when it happens anymore. They just roll. I flop over. I've had a sinus infection going on 3 years now. Go ask them to do a swab test. I had recurring ear throat infections for almost 2 years and it turns out I had a super infection, fungal, viral, and bacterial, growing in my throat. It took a month of strong meds. But it hasn't been an issue since. I have cravings for lemon pledge, fabric softener sheets, laundry detergent, wet sponges, dirt, and tons of other cleaning products. I don't act on it. So it's whatever. But God sponges sounds good right now. Edit. Sounds like pica. I'm gonna second the pica thing. And also add that a lot of cases of pica are caused by nutritional deficiencies. Wouldn't hurt to bring it up with your doctor and get a blood panel done. I'm only horny like once every 5 days. There can be little weeks that go by where I'm just not into it. Don't even watch PRN. I sleep well. Exercise 5-6 times a week. I'm not stressed. And I'm a guy in my late 20s. It's literally ruined relationships for me. There's nothing I can do about it. Doctor says my T levels are normal range. Edit. To everyone asking if I'm a Zool. I'm interested in women. I enjoy sex. Just not as frequently as is perceived as normal. So no. Dude. That's pretty normal. I know a lot of guys like that. It's okay to not want sex. I have 19 lipomas all over my body. Mostly on my arms, legs and torso. Most are about the size of a pencil erasers, but I have a large one on my arm and one in my thighs that's about the size of a quarter, and it's noticeable, but the others you can't visually see really. Only feel. I've told numerous doctors who do not seem to care. Apparently it's just aesthetic. I sometimes get a sharp pain in the lower right part of my back. It makes me unable to walk properly when it happens. But just doesn't feel worth looking up. I probably have a weak back. Just be like that sometimes. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes and suggestions and theories. Here's a bit of backstory. It all started a few years back during a Quidditch game. Yes. You read that right. I was truly to tackle another player but had my back bended back too much. No pun intended. Then I just felt a sharp pain in a muscle bone or whatever and bam, I couldn't walk properly. Edit 2. For all of the people with the same similar thing. Utatorapoko commented about a similar case. And suggested that it might be the sciatic nerve. Moral of the story from this thread. I have a lump on my chest that randomly starts intensely vibrating for a minute or so. Edit. That's just a UFO tracking device. It vibrates whenever they spgsoogle your name. You should probably see a doctor about this. I have the tip of a pencil stuck in my knee but it doesn't hurt or bother me. If you don't have pencil lead stuck somewhere in your body. Is it weird to talk about my period? They're all lit up and it's annoying. But I don't feel like it's something I need to bother the doctor about. Edit. So. I have my normal period for about 4-5 days. And then it stops. But probably 1-2 every other week I some sort of bloody discharge. And constant stomach pains for the last 3 months at least. It makes it really uncomfortable trying to have sex when I never know if I'm randomly going to start bleeding. Also should add. I'm 29 yo. Have 2 kids. Do not want more but can't do birth control again because I can't handle the side effects. It's never weird to talk about your period. A gynecologist's job is literally talking about periods and vaginas all day. My heart beats up to 205 BPM at times. It comes out of nowhere and it has lasted up to 25 minutes before. Also, sometimes I get a sharp pain that feels like what I can only describe as a lightning bolt on the left side of my chest. Edit. I didn't expect anyone to see this. Let alone comment on it. Thank you for everyone's concern and input. But cries in American, I don't have health insurance. My brother stabbed me with a coloring pencil when I was 5. It was pulled out but I have had a teal spot about the size of a pea since then. I'm 31 now. My chest sometimes hurts like a mini heart attack. but only when I get super baked. I assume my doctor will just tell me to quit getting super baked. Can confirm. That is what they will tell you. If it gets worse, maybe consider stopping smoking pot. Though, I was fine for years until it started triggering panic attacks just about every time. For me, it's pain. I have fibromyalgia, so it's really tough for me to convince a doctor when my pain is different. I've kind of given up unless it gets super debilitating. I have scrotal webbing on my penis. My scrotum attaches about halfway up my shaft. It's pretty discouraging because it makes my penis appear smaller. Plus, if you're ever stranded in a kayak, all you gotta do is get a boner, then stand up, circumflexo stroke acute. I get terrible headaches, migraines, IDK, that last days and hurt very bad. I take medicine to make it feel better, which sometimes doesn't help. It sucks. I have a deformed tailbone. I can literally feel 2 vertebrae side by side horizontally. I have severe pain during certain exercises or when I sit a certain way. I can't imagine trying to get surgery for it. I'm very self-conscious about it. Luckily, I didn't get a tramp stamp to cover it like I wanted when I was younger. I'm fat. My belly never stops aching. Sounds